we're going to pause learning some new things for a video to be able to kind of integrate a few things that we've been learning together. Right now, we have a number of scripts that we've learned how to work with and that we're able to apply to different game objects. But what if we started to do some mixing and matching? For example, this platform that I created using my Pro Builder, what if I thought about actually spinning this as an entire piece of the level, where I might actually want to take this and rotate it at a slow pace around the y-axis. I'm not limited to only attaching that spinner onto other smaller game objects. I can also do it on this big part of the world itself, where, what did I call this thing? I should name these things a little bit better. Where I can actually maybe crank this down a little bit, but think about having the actual, this part of the level itself rotate. Now, something I notice here is why is it rotating around this edge? Well, that's kind of the starting reference point, and everything references around that particular coordinate where the shape is built from. Is there any way that I could change this so it rotated instead, for example, around kind of a center point over here? Let me show you a little strategy. I'm going to call this, let's rename this my fancy platform. And instead of having it rotate around this point, what I can do is create an empty object. I'm going to call this fancy platform source. And I'm going to move my fancy platform underneath the source. Now check this out. If I take this source and I move this down, now actually before I move the fancy platform underneath it, let's get this in the position that I want. That would be the easier way to go about doing this. I'm actually just going to fly there. I like to do it this way, and I'm going to go game object align with view, and now I have this kind of right at the center point of that other object. And now if I attach my fancy platform to that, the parent's center starting point is at that location. And now check this out. If I remove the spinner from the fancy platform, but attach it instead to the parent, and I put, what did I say, 0.1, and around the y-axis, and I start to run this, the rotation will be applied to the parent's position. And so I should see it rotating now along that axis. And now this fancy platform, because of the angle it was at, is going to rotate in this way. If I wanted to actually have it not rotate quite so strangely, I might actually need to rotate this fancy platform to not be quite so strangely rotated on some of our dimensions. Let's see here. Let's kind of reset it a little bit here. See if that looks any better in terms of our rotations. And see our scene view. A little bit better. Maybe I can flatten that out a little bit more. But really, the object is rotating around that center point instead of that corner point, which is maybe the behavior that you want. So we can use hierarchies to be able to apply basic scripts to sets of information. Here's another example of how this could work. We were able to have a platform move back and forth. And I could maybe think about copying and pasting a number of these to have them all kind of follow the same type of motion because they're all mimicking one another. So they're all moving in a similar way because I copied and pasted them. But there's another way that I could do this. I'm going to take this moving thing and just move it down to the bottom here. What if I created an empty called moving platforms? And instead of having each of these things have the script running on them, so in fact, if I select all of them at once, I can right click on the script and remove the component. And since they were all selected, it removed it for all of them. And if I move these platforms underneath moving platforms, and I attached a move platform script to this, then I can have this move front to back at a rate that's going to be applied to the whole group of them. So now we'll see that these are all moving in the same way, front to back, and they don't have to be at the same position. I could, for example, offset these in different ways so that the player has to kind of jump between them. But since they're all part of the same group, they're all going to behave the same way. Where is this going to be useful? Well, if I want them to all behave the same way, if I had them separately, I'd have to change each of these individually, or at least select them all. If they're all under one group, the changes I make here echo to all the parts underneath it. So that's something that I can do. I can think about organizing resources in empty objects and then applying the scripts to the parent. And then everything underneath it will follow the same logic. Let's see kind of a meta version of this. Just out of interest's sake, let's create a level rotator. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take basically everything inside of my level, and I want to, other than maybe the ground and the directional light, and let's rotate this, maybe not the camera, let's get the cameras out of here. But these main lights and spotlights and stuff, let's get these all under the level rotator. And I'm going to take a spin object. Let's spin it at a very slow rate, maybe 0.2 will be good for now, along the y-axis, and press run and see what happens here. Now that I put everything in that script, something strange is going on. Let's go to my scene view, and I see that the entire level is now rotating all at once. Now, where is it rotating around? Well, it's rotating around the kind of origin point of this level rotator over here, kind of up in this weird spot. So if I move this around, the level rotator, now it's going to actually move all the objects, but if I set the center point of this level rotator better from the start, so maybe let's move this level rotator, move everything out of it for now, for example, and take the level rotator and actually move it down to the center of our world down here. Or maybe you set it down to the center of the world a little bit more easily. And then now I take all these other things, moving platforms, and move it under the level rotator. I should see a little bit more of a sensible way of viewing how this all looks. Still be a little bit chaotic, but now I have this kind of cool whirlwind effect where everything's flowing around the player in a rotation. And now the player has kind of this is rotating separately because it has its own rotation on it. So it's rotating in the world, but also around the player. Now, I have to design my level to actually be beatable in this state, but what I want to show you here is that because I've combined all of these things under one parent and applied a rotation to it, everything inside of it gets rotated. And it could lead to some really cool level designs to do something like having the whole world move or the whole world rotate or different combinations of things moving around. So we're able to use this idea of hierarchies as well as our different mechanics with our scripts to be able to get things up and running. We're still going to add a few new strategies in this section, like turning things on and off and enabling and disabling things in different ways that you could use at this kind of structure as well. But think about if there are any ways you can improve your small prototype right now to kind of take advantage of this system. I'm going to disable it for now because I think that that's not particularly playable. I need to do some more experimentation, but I like the idea. I'm really curious what I could do with this if I was to spend some more time on this. However, we still have some new skills to add, so I will take us there in the next video.